Hello, my name is Ilse and I'll be doing the first part of this course. I'll be taking you through my designing process of a character from the initial reference gathering to a final 3D ready design. I'll be starting off with a deeper dive into gathering references once you've got yourself a nice concept to work with. I'll be using PureRef as a tool to collect these. I highly recommend the program for when you want a clean setup for all your visuals. So let's get started with that. The brainstorm session has gotten us to a clear concept for this character. I've written down some of the most important aspects of her, and I will be using them as pillars for the designing process. Of course, the most important aspect as a tea brewer would be that she is a tea expert or a specialist of some kind. I also want her to feel like she's not necessarily a human being. She might look like one, since most of her days she will be living amongst them on Earth, brewing and gathering ingredients and such. She doesn't need to be one herself, however. She could be a being living in between the gods world and the human world, traveling upon request between Earth and the gods' planes and such. We also established that the core of this game concept is not really fighting bosses or other things, but to avoid them entirely. I also really like the idea of her being confident in her skills as a gatherer and brewer. And as a brewer, she will be needing a teapot, either a magical artifact or a sentient one of some sort. She could have created it herself or could have been bestowed upon her as tool from the gods. It's going to be a divining trait of her anyhow, so I will give it its own design section. This first section is all about clothing for the girl. I needed the clothing to feel like a combination of high class and servitude. Even though this girl will be a servant for the gods, she still needs to know and has experienced luxury very well to be able to provide such high-grade products to the gods. And these pieces of clothing really gave me that sense. Long skirts with aprons, but they are lavishly decorated and layered and such. And I also fell in love with this particular top shape as well. And I really want to try to implement that aspect into design some way. And I also tried to keep the palette contained to just neutral colors, earthy and muted. Even if the clothing are wildly patterned, they don't feel too luxurious as a result because of the muted color palette. So I hope it's a good combination for that reason. Here are a couple detailed images. They're more like an add-on addition to the clothing section. These are a couple items that just sparked general inspiration for me. I love these braided elements and fringes here, and I think it could be a nice addition to the design. Here are a couple bag shapes that I'll be considering for the design. I used the same thought process as the clothing here, so going for a neutral and earthy vibes to them with some intricacies here and there that could fit the herb gathering individual that we will be designing. I really like these flower details. I feel like they fit the theme very well. I'm not sure yet which shape bag I'll be using or the placement on her body, but I'll find my way during the drawing process. I should also keep in mind that she will be traveling with the teapot, and maybe the bag and the teapot could be a combination of some sort. I'll keep that option open. There might be something interesting there. Then moving on to the teapot, here are a couple references I gathered for it. I don't think all of these are even teapots, but they gave me interesting ideas for the shapes, colors, and patterns. I'm really loving the flowery patterns with the soft white and gold for these ones. These four are very close to the concepts and are saved for that reason alone. They really sparked the inspiration for the godly tea brewer very well. Here are a couple more that might not fit the theme as directly, but they still spark some initial inspiration nonetheless. I really like the see-through glass where you could potentially see the herbs floating about in the warm tea, for example. I think that could look really cool. Of course, there are also some different materials here as well that I could take into account. I also really want to see if the teapot as a sentient companion could work, so I saved these two. However, even if these are nice object to creature references, I think they are a little bit too eerie looking for the theme. However, the teapot should not be scary horror-like, so I'll be giving them my own spin using the other references on the board. Here are a couple pattern designs I gathered that caught my eye. I really like that these seem very busy. But looking at the entire design, it's actually quite a nice hierarchy to them. There are lots of small finer details, but they're all contained within the bigger shapes. I hope to be able to hit that middle ground as well as I move forward with the design. Here are some artworks I gathered. These are more so an expansion upon what we already gathered in the brainstorm section. These sort of embody what I'm looking for vibe and mood wise. Here I gathered some images of actual drawings. These are an expansion upon what we already gathered in the brainstorm session. These embody what I'm looking for vibe and mood wise. They tell me sort of the energy the character should exude. Most of these characters do feel very royal and luxurious, but within the down-to-earth colors that I aim for, they feel like they are very involved with nature next to their royal status. Here are just a couple images that embody the physique and the proportions, how I envisioned the girl to be. I wanted to be somewhat slim and short looking in stature, so that's pretty straightforward. I'll be using these as a guide for those proportions. I wanted to make a quick note about the reference gathering in general. Right now, I'm not necessarily trying to use any specific culture or religion as a basis. All of these references here are purely chosen for what could fit the theme based on shapes, materials, and color, without a connection to something existing in the real world. However, if you do decide to base a character within a specific culture, you might want to expand your board and your research to a more deep dive into it so you can represent this culture accurately as possible. All right, now that we're done with the reference gathering, we can hop on designing.